Hey, this is Dallin Jeeps Utah on YouTube. I'm Dallin in real life, and I'm with Crimson Ooze, otherwise known as Mia. Actually, Mia is like, but that should be an otherwise, should it? Anyways, we were just discussing how the YouTube community has kind of faded away. Back in the day, there used to be. It's weird to say back in the day about 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. Just
It's
like
like,
years. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but there was a pretty strong YouTube community back then. And we were talking about that and how it's kind of faded away. We both still have. I mean, that's how we know each other is from YouTube and the just the kind of chats and video chats that it went into. Stickam used to talk to a lot of YouTubers on Stickam, and that was part of the community and that and video responses. But we were just talking about how that's kind of faded away.
yeah, like, it doesn't really seem as much, not like small camaraderie. I'm sure that there are still small communities out there, but I guess it's not as prevalent to knowing like where to go, who to reach out to kind of have like a solid kind of community where you're not looking at other people just as celebrities, because like in the beginning of YouTube, like there were a
There
lot of
were,
people who are like the top commented and like most viewed and stuff, but they weren't really celebrities then. It was just these people were
yeah,
kind of on top, but they were interacting with everybody because I guess the whole thing about it is YouTube is so much smaller. It got infinitely
it
bigger
was,
over
yeah,
a span of time. But in the very beginning, I mean, these were a lot of people who just like made friendships and ties and acquaintances and like
yeah.
interacted pretty regularly. And
Well,
not
and a
it
lot
wasn't
of
just
it,
about collabs either. It was just like going back
yeah,
to what you were saying about video responses.
yeah, the
So
video
I mean,
response was a big part, and like that's kind of what got like people in touch in a way. Like not the main catalyst. Like, it's probably a big catalyst that was there that got people in touch with each other. But then like the video chat websites that existed just kind of after YouTube popped up.
yeah, I know there were
Where
a couple of them, but like Stickam was like the main thing.
yeah, well,
I mean,
for
there's like
me,
Blog TV, and I think there's like Justin TV and some other ones. They're
yeah,
long gone now, but
for me, I found Stickam because Bohem posted a thing on his channel.
I think I might have come because of Bohem as well, or Bohem, or who else was doing them?
And
Someone
he
else was
was
doing them. I think I want to say either maybe it was, gosh, who was it? Um, who was going live for a brief moment? I think there was this girl named Layla. She was on there, and she got a lot of exposure. I
yeah.
I followed her for a while. She kind of fell off the radar, and I think she's done that kind of purposefully, but which kind
But
of
for
happens a lot. I think some
yeah,
people just either don't want anyone to know they kind of fell into a limelight or not, if they've like kind of given up on that.
yeah, I've seen that happen to a lot of people. Like Bohem, for example, he's not really in the limelight anymore. But back in the
Mm.
day, he was a fairly popular YouTuber. And when he posted about Stickam, like I can't remember how he mentioned it. It might have been in a video
It was a
that
video.
he
I
was
think he was
live.
announcing that he was going to go live, and
But I went into there, and then from there, I found other people that were
yeah, I
pretty
remember like
pretty into
viewing
YouTube.
his live chats.
Yeah, and
I think that was before
from
I
that
found
I
like
found
our
YouTube
chat.
chat.
Yeah,
Yeah, from that I found YouTube chat, and then YouTube chat there was a lot of the people that are pretty big now even were regulars in YouTube chat.
yeah.
Mystery Guitar Man, uh,
Hmm.
the SXE Phil. He didn't get yeah Philip DeFranco. Uh, he was in there all the time.
I think that's another thing that a lot of people forget now. It's like YouTube has like everyone has their names attached to their channels now. Back then we were just all usernames, so
Yeah,
that's all we knew each other as.
and Miles. Miles was in there often.
Yeah.
But and then from there also like people that would pop in every once in a while had their own things going on, and you could go into their rooms and then you'd find even more people
Hmm.
that were into YouTube, but they didn't like being in YouTube chat because sometimes it got pretty immature. It was weird. And it was hard to have a
It
discussion.
did get a little. I, I don't know. I think sometimes I stayed just because like a sick curiosity of who's gonna say the next messed up thing.
Yeah, like I probably can't share a video in here. Huh? Maybe.
I don't know.
Let's see. Um, there's a
Well,
YouTube thing.
while you're looking for that, I mean, a lot of the reason like why we decided to talk about this is Dallin and I have been friends for a long time now, and just because of the YouTube community and Stickam, and we've kind of like discussed a little bit of this off and on through like the years and how
Yeah.
like things have kind of like dispersed as far as activity. And then I watch and follow Victor, King of the Morons, Give Me a Break Man or Give Me a Flake Man. And he did like about a week ago a vlog about like why some YouTubers quit recording, or they just, you don't hear from them, or, why do people just kind of taper off? And so I was like, well, it's kind of interesting how he just mentions a lot of people from way back when, and it's just like no one will ever really understand or know like the history of like how YouTube came up. It was just like what happened just recently was YouTube came upon its 10th year, its 10th birthday.
Yeah.
And I looked through like their playlist. I put it in, we have a Facebook group, and I put a thing like, what do you remember? Not a lot of people participated. I found their playlist for like what happened the last 10 years. And it was really, for me, kind of underwhelming because
Yeah.
I feel like it barely touched on anything that I remember from like the early days of like YouTube just kind of like coming into its own. And I feel like there's a lot more that they barely scraped across the surface.
Yeah.
To show like how it's grown. Like it's kind of like they're kind of dusting off the trail from what their roots are for whatever reason, which kind of sucks.
It's a weird thing to watch because it's like okay, it's like seeing a montage on like Jimmy Kimmel when he's like hanging out with all these different celebrities. It's like, yeah, that's not what the community is.
Well, it's just like there was a couple viral videos, and I'm like, I don't see any of these. Like to me, like yeah, there were a couple viral videos that like really did push it over the edge, but really, what pushed YouTube and YouTubers of today to where they are now were the first generation, second generation YouTubers that were vlogging, the first vloggers.
Yeah.
That's what set everyone apart. It was the first vloggers. Gosh, I don't know why I forgot about this. Like one of the first people that I really started following was UT Now. His name is Scott Fitzhugh, and he used to do a lot of videos. I was watching him and Bohem and a bunch of other people back then. I think he started doing like a Stickam room or something, and I ended up joining it, or someone was cross promoting something else, and that's what got me started. But Scott Fitzhugh and also ended up making a small social networking site for a while. That was part of. That's why I wasn't necessarily as like active in Stickam for a while. It was another site. It was called Lua.com that he created, and it was around for several years, and then it just kind of finally went under, and he shut it down because it just turned into like a hub for spam because not as many people were active anymore. But I made a lot of friends there at the time, and we were able to video blog there for a little bit, but not to the degree that I ended up immersing into like YouTube chat.
That's
by comparison.
That's an interesting thing. Like, just something I kind of keyed in on when you were talking about that. There's that kind of time, like over time, there will be that degradation of any like social gathering place on the internet.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, you'll have the participants who are serious about it, but maybe not.
I
Maybe
felt like I
not
was pretty
serious in the
serious
sense
about
of
it at the same
serious.
time. Like I felt like I was
Yeah,
really vlogging for a while, just kind of sharing pieces of myself, and then it was kind of like, all right, putting my feet back into the water and see how it feels. I was kind of like really apprehensive again after all of that.
but there will be participants like that, like you or in the beginning of like websites, you'll have those people that are really engaged in the concept of it and making it work. But then once others key into like the site, there's this kind of like there's this kind of decay that happens when you just get all these kind of youngsters who just want to just pop in and spam it and troll it. There's that degradation that happens of any website
Yeah.
where you see the personal interaction on a website slowly decrease and decrease and decrease because they have to do that in order to make it so that these spamming, trolling people can keep degrading the experience. So
Right.
you lose that personal touch on any website where that's a component that where you don't control the capability of people to troll and
Well,
spam.
that's true. Kind of like, well, right before we started this, is like we were just talking about, like, there are also several YouTube groups on Facebook, and I was like, well, people are either going to see this or they don't. But the
Yeah,
chances are there's going to be a big majority of people who don't, because you know what? Now that people know that they can turn off notifications in groups, they probably have, because in these YouTube groups, there are a lot of young people, and I'm not really trying to knock them, but there are a lot of young people that are just out there to post and spam their videos and promote them rather than really engage in conversation. As a pattern that I see in so many groups in general, like no one really leads the charge as far as conversations and
yeah,
themed like discussions. So I often sit back and wonder to myself, well, what's the point? Because
yeah.
that was what the basis of the original like YouTubers and vloggers were about. Is like we would start like these topics of conversation. Like everyone has like these tagging games. Well, back when we had tagging games, it was like we're actually had topics and we would tag people to like
Yeah,
touch on it and like respond. That's why video responses were so important,
they
because
were
you
amazing. Yeah,
attached yourself, and it was more than often than not, some were not, but more often than not, it was a great utility to like attach the name to topic of discussion. So when you had one topic, you could go right underneath the video and there would just be like several of them, like you could follow the flow of conversation. Whereas like
yeah,
now you just get the suggested videos and you're like, I'm not sure what order this and this goes in, but I'm gonna hope for the best.
yeah. And people can pay to be the suggested video on the side,
Yeah,
so
I
it
feel
may
like
not even be
that's
relevant.
I feel like
And like,
that's kind of sucky too, because you're missing out on something that could be, helpful to whatever you're into at that time as far as discussion, conversation.
yeah, like here's like the old collaboration thing. Do you see YouTube? Like the thing that I got up.
Uh, Let me see here. Am I looking at the YouTube app?
Well, I'm gonna click play and just tell me if anything happens for you.
Okay.
Okay. Do you see anything?
Um, it's a blank video for me. All I hear is like,
So it wasn't playing the YouTube chat addiction collaboration.
it is, but all I hear is like the music from it. Now it's loading.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just need to keep playing it. I'm just gonna play this as an example of a collaboration that a lot of us did on YouTube chat.
Hopefully that shows up on the screen. But if not,
Yeah, I
if
don't
you end
know.
up missing this, I guess you can always just post the link in the description.
Yeah, if you search YouTube chat as one word and then addiction collaboration as an collaboration,
Yeah.
it's not anything super amazing, but it's an example
Oh
of
my
just like
God.
a community kind of project. I'm gonna keep playing it now and see if you guys can see it. Just to be clear, I feel that this falls under fair use since we're commentating on it. So there was that.
I don't think that it went
I
in
don't
the
know.
video, so I'll probably link to it later. But that's pretty much a prime example of what the
It
small
really is.
kind of like close knit community incurred.
For real. But then there's oodles and oodles of collabs like that all over.
Yeah, there were tons, as far as I can recall.
And it's something
And,
that's missing now. Like there's not. It's just not there anymore.
well, that was like the TJ thing. That was the cool thing, is like we would take a bunch of footage and like slap it together. It wasn't really important about how clean it looked, because it was, again, community effort.
Mm-hmm. And then just so much of it just like looks like VHS tape quality kind of stuff, and like no
Old school
HD
webcams.
webcams were like a new, like HD cams were a new thing,
Just barely.
and
Probably
hardly
during that
anybody
one.
had one.
Yeah. Or,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
I know
I
this was.
guarantee you that like the webcam I was using when I made that is a webcam that I had like in 1997.
Probably. I think for the majority of people, it's like whatever ones they like had like laying around.
Yeah. Well, and, like I had to like barter for the one I had because it was just like a weird thing. Like, whoa, a webcam?
Right. I'm trying to think about how many of them I probably went through at the time.
I'm on my third one. Like I've had this one for
My other one, actually, I
I've had
just
this
I
one
think
for
I have my
almost
other
a
one.
decade.
This is my old reliable, but it's like been since like abused. This is like the Philips. I don't know,
I've got a
whatever.
couple.
Pixel Plus, whatever. I think it was just before they started doing like HD ones. This is the one that I
Yeah.
used the most. I had this one and another one identical to it, because I had a backup. I don't know what I did to it up my head. I think
The
I
one I
lent
have
it to someone.
now will do 720p, but I never use it. But the one I had before was just total crap. Like maybe 480.
I
But it
think
didn't matter because like conversation and interpersonal communication was what it was all about. And now like you don't feel like you can talk to anybody who's really like succeeding in YouTube. There's not that personal.
I don't feel like anyone's on level. I mean, like I've seen that. Yeah, some people do like Hangouts, but Hangouts more often than not. This is the difference between having Google Hangouts and Stickam. Stickam, you could allow a lot of varieties of people into a community of like chat setting. Most people more often than not go exclusively into like privately linked Hangouts,
Yeah,
as far as I know, with their friends. And I say that from experience, because for most of us, we have like closed Hangouts, because
yeah, that's how it is most of the
otherwise you get mobbed by people who are just like kind of on the verge of creeper status.
time. And
And
like that. That's why I'll make some of my public, like my Hangouts, public, because I want to interact with those people sometimes. It's very, very strange.
social
Like,
experiments are probably like the most entertaining.
it's really fun. And then like when I get people from our core group that we talk to,
Mm-hmm.
when like they pop into the Hangout, I'm sitting there with like these weird people from all over the world. Like it was like a couple months ago, I was talking to a dude from that was in India, and we were just talking about
He
stuff.
thought you were the bee's knees. Like he's like, Dallin, you're so awesome, and forgive me my poor accent, because
Well, it's probably just because I was like, I was interacting with them and just like, I don't know, like, but that's the thing with like kind of YouTube celebrity people. If they were to start a hangout, it's more of like a question and answer session.
yeah, that's not what
fanboy thing.
that's not how I jive, really. Like
Yeah.
I like integrating. That's the mentality I've always had. If someone I ever met anyone of, I guess, significance or importance, I would just treat them like another human being.
That's exactly what's at the core of like just like a community. Like being on the same level, just communicating that way. And then, I mean, it doesn't exist. Like, a lot of people just don't put themselves out there like that.
Not
But,
really,
like,
because now it's just kind of been about like, what can I do next that kind of sets me ahead of everyone else, and that was the game changer. Once people, I think, were able to get like partnerships and monetize their videos and stuff, which I'm not like, again, I'm not knocking people for it, but I think that became the sole focus versus the embracement of uh,
yeah.
the whole, and that was the way it was. It was really a platform for us to interact with each other. I feel like, and I know that people still do to some degree, but not nearly in the, I guess, the same way that I'm familiar with. Unless the thing is there, it's such a huge populace of people using YouTube that direction of like creating communities is a little muddled, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, like the core groups I know is like our group from Stickam, from YouTube chat, and then I know of all the other people who are like first and second gen, who either hung out with us or they moved on and left all the little people kind of like behind. Not that it's a complaint, because I got to hang out with a bunch of awesome friends, and then like I said, I watched Victor, and he's a part of like a group of all these J vloggers in Japan, which I find are really interesting and intriguing. And which brings me back to, there was not only the YouTubers and YouTube chat and Instagram, we had Aussie tubers. I remember. You remember
What is
that?
that? I
You
don't
remember the
even.
Aussie tubers room? Like on the front page of Stickam, we
Like
had
Australians?
yeah, there was Aussie tubers. There's Aussie chat.
I never participated in that. I had a few people who, like, actually like a fair amount of people from Australia who really liked one of my videos, and I got like a little bit of an Australian following, and that's the closest I've gotten to them. Like, they were asking me like permission to use like my yeehaws and my
Right.
snap or my jump
You're
cut scream.
Yeah.
And that's the closest I've gotten. I'm completely unaware, pretty much, of like the J vloggers and the Aussie vloggers. Like, I just never interacted with them.
Well, I remember always seeing
It's
them. I
not
never
like
really
an
joined
against
like the
them.
room or
It's
anything,
just,
but I remember Ryan, our late friend Ryan, the tail's end, as most people knew him, would like go and schmooze. That was the thing that I missed the most about him. It's just like he was the one that just like chameleoned in and out of like every group there was.
yeah.
He just managed to schmooze everyone, and it was kind of like remarkable because he would go and hang out with like the Aussies, and then he would go and go hang out in Sam's room, Sam Proof, and
Yeah.
from place to place, he was just like widely accepted all over.
He just had a lot of relatability.
He always had something to talk about too.
Yeah.
Like he just like was a never-ending information hub, I think, and he was pretty smart as far as that went.
He's just a really pretty great guy in general. Yeah.
I feel like that was another
Very
thing
nice
too, like
person.
him being gone too, and not really meant to like bring down the whole topic. It's like when you lose like significant personalities, it just kind of like dings the spirit, because I always feel like there's kind of like a hierarchy of like leaders and followers, and not that any one person is more important than the other, but it seems like there are some people that are kind of like inherently the glue that holds groups together, and once you remove them from the equation, things kind of just fall apart at the seams.
Yeah.
And that's why I
agree
mean,
with
and
that.
even in just like Facebook groups or whatever groups people have to kind of bring their communities together, when I see nothing but spamming, there's no one in there that's trying to kind of lead the crowd in a positive way to interact, instead of just kind of like
there's no wagon
virtually
there.
vomit their content and just kind of
Yeah.
like leave the mess and then run, you know, like an animal. He's like, here, let me just puke all over the floor and leave you to clean it up.
There's
I
no,
hope you like
yeah,
it.
that's a complete lack of substance. It's just here's a bunch of stuff, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't
Right.
operate as anything.
And I always believe in trying to engage people. And it's just like, as a person who's also a people watcher, is like I've kind of learned to kind of learn about people and who they are, what they're interested in before I kind of like integrate or just kind of, because I don't like taking over, but I also like just kind of immerse into like activities if I can find the open spot. If there's not an opportunity for activities or interaction, there's not really an opening for you to expand your circle in any way.
Yeah. Uh,
It's hard to
I
find commonality that way.
I agree big time. That's a big habit I have is like anytime I'm interacting with a new group is I sit there and I gather information in my head about like the dynamic of the group to feel out how I'm gonna pop in there.
Right? Like, am I gonna be an aggressor? Am I like kind of a submissive person? What kind of people are these that like if I am I stepping on toes if I interact this way or
Yeah, because like just in the different groups that we've been in over the just a lot
oh
of them
god,
I've
it's
been
like
in.
seven,
But
8 years for me and you hanging
yeah,
out together.
the dynamic that I have with different people is completely different, and it's not me being a different person. It's just me being more of one part of myself with certain people
Yeah.
and less of other parts. Because there's people that only all they would know that like what they think about me is just that I'm like a loud, aggressive
Loud character. Like, yeah, you're a
character.
very prominent character, but it's just like at the same time they probably say, oh, that's Stalin. He's known for being loud and crazy and he says yeehaw and
Yeah, and
drinks a
then
lot of Mountain Dew.
they'll think that I'm just kind of an idiot, and especially when I was a drinker,
Right.
being drunk all the time. They would just think I'm loud, aggressive, and trying to make jokes all the time. But like when I deal with other people, and I'm not engaged in that, there can be intelligent conversation that goes
Well, I
on for a
can
long
I can vouch for that because I think
time.
we've spent a lot of time just kind of like fleshing out a lot of the weird philosophical and whatever kind of
Yeah,
topics over large and small periods of time.
and that's an important part of friendship in my mind is having those kind of conversations, and that's the kind of thing that video responses on YouTube used to kind of allow and foster.
Yeah, because a lot of
Is that
people being able to vlog on YouTube, you get to be candid, right? So it's just like, yeah, you're interacting with one person, but you're kind of like not. That's kind of like the beauty of what vlogging was. It's like you could kind of like bare your soul in a way that you really couldn't necessarily feel comfortable with in person for some people. Some people had to learn to
yeah,
talk to the camera too and just kind of loosen up. It's like, here's your virtual journal, go for it.
yeah,
If
I
you're
definitely
brave
had to
enough
learn
to
that.
do that, go for it.
Talking to the camera was super awkward in the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, like even in the beginning of this recording right now,
Hmm.
like there were just like a few stuttery stumbles just
It's a
because
little bit of like
a little bit
anxiousness.
out of practice, and I've never
Yeah.
done one of these exactly. So it's like,
I think it was just kind of like wrapping your head around it. Just,
but I mean, and I guess because of the Google Plus aspect to YouTube, there is that opportunity for community, and that your channel has its own Google Plus page. The
right.
problem is not a lot of people watch Google Plus. Not a lot of people use Google Plus. It's a far better utility for this kind of interaction and to
Yeah.
foster the community. The problem is that people don't use it because they see YouTube as just this tool to try and make money, try and get famous on YouTube. So they'll work on their videos, and there's not a lot of personality that
I
goes.
think that's why I'm more selective about the
Personality
people that I
interaction.
follow too. Are they doing this just for their followers? Or are they doing this for like for show. And
Yeah.
granted, a lot of people are there just because they want to be entertainers, and I get that. But I think that my personal preference is like the main draw are people who kind of like to speak to other people and like share their experiences.
Yeah.
That's what brought me into the fold of wanting to
Me too.
vlog and interact with other people. I wouldn't have joined a video chat with a bunch of like people I've never really met before in my life if I didn't think that maybe I might be able to relate and like share some things, not just my videos, but just like I generally felt like I could fit in because I have a lot in common with these people, or I might not have a lot in common, but I have like a common interest,
Yeah.
right? And it's not just about like, look at my thing, but it's like we all like to do videos and we're all into different things, and we end up forming like these bonds. And like, I remember we used to always like talk about the what ifs if we ever all got together. Do you remember that? Like everyone would be
Yeah.
like, if I ever hung out with so and so, or you could always go see so and so in the UK, because we had friends internationally. Like that was like the first real opportunity for me to like really reach out more than I had before. And
Yeah.
because I wasn't as outgoing in like forums and stuff for a long time. And all my other chats were just like my main chats. I probably way back in the day, back on like AOL and all those before
Um, yeah. I was in
things
Yahoo
changed
chats and
immensely
ICQ
on the
chats.
internet. I remember going on there. It's like AIM, AOL, Yahoo chats, but like it never went beyond that. And I'd never really maintained a lot of lasting friendships except for maybe a small few. And I can say that at least one of those from like back in the day on AOL, I think is like one buddy ended up being not really a YouTuber per se, but he does podcasts, and he also writes he writes dialogue for other people's comics. And he goes by Terrence. It's really awesome.
Huh.
But it's just like the phenomenon of like the sense of community is like few and far between. There's just not enough people, I think, that are willing to kind of go out of their comfort zones and connect and build those friendships.
Yeah. But
I think there's like a fear of connection in a way.
at the same time, people are communicating with people they don't know, but they're
That's
not
true.
they're not getting that deeper interpersonal relationship. It's all kind of like sticky uh,
I think that's what
stuff.
like kind of makes me feel like because like there are a lot of cool people and I'm really entertained by them and I enjoy them immensely again, but when I see like it's just about like who can I get in my video this week
Yeah,
that's like
yeah,
notable, right? And it's like, oh cool, and then I see like all these fans, they just worship them rather than like they kind of like interact. So they're like, oh, I ship this person and this person together. I'm like, wait, when did this turn into fan fiction versus these are real life people?
yeah. It's a strange dynamic.
And as far
It's
as
funny
like,
because I'll talk to people like in real life,
yeah,
and they'll be like, "You heard of this YouTuber?" And it's like, yeah, not only that, but I know him.
right. People kind of like look at me funny for a minute because like I look at like some of my cousins and they're like getting into YouTube and they're like, oh, have you heard of this and this and this? And I'm like, yeah, but I also met them and I'm
Yeah,
either acquaintance or I know them or I knew them,
acquaintance or a good friend.
right? Right? And it's like they kind of like, what? I remember my cousin was like super into Fred and she'd like try to torture me by making me watch all these videos. And I was like, you don't need to do that because I already know about Fred. How do you know about Fred? Because YouTube. How do you know?
Yeah.
Because I was there in the beginning.
Well,
And I remember when Fred or Lucas used to come into YouTube chat looking for like people to follow him and promote his stuff. And I was
see,
like,
that's
okay.
that's what was cool.
And then we finally met the kid. I think the first time I saw him was like, I don't know if he went to the Aswan gathering in San Francisco back in the day, but I remember he was at YouTube Live where like we saw dozens of people, and it was really it was a great experience, but at the same time it was really weird. That was like the marking point of turning popular YouTubers into celebrities.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like strange. I remember when I went, that was the second time I met Sam. I remember getting a super big like bear hug from him.
Sam's got to be one of the coolest people on YouTube.
Yeah, I have to say Sam's probably one of the coolest people I know from that time. And now.
Cool, yeah, like the chill, cool, never stops.
Well, and always is all encompassing for like anyone to come and hang out when he's live. And I know he does stuff on YouNow, and I don't know how often he's making videos. I know he's got family and other things that he's doing too, but it's just like, I don't know. I feel like there's not enough going on anymore to kind of draw people in. And I understand that to a point, because going back to like why people quit YouTube is like, okay, this was like a marking point in our life of like for us is like our young adulthood or just the end of our adolescence. And then there are people growing up, they've got lives now. And so it was kind of like, it became a hobby, and then for some people it went on back burner. And then I felt like this was like something that could always be a part of me in some sort of way, because that's where my interests have always lied, is multimedia and like video. And
now that's an interesting point. Like when I make a video, I still make it for the community, kind of.
Yeah.
Because that's who I want to see it. I don't care if some kid in Georgia sees my video and likes it. Like, it's cool if he does. I'm not hating on him.
Right.
Feel free to like my videos.
Right.
But I'm not making them for people I don't know. Doesn't mean I don't want to know more people, and that I'm not willing to like embrace more people. But the people I make them for, and the people I want it to see, are my friends, not the masses. I'm way cool with one of my videos going viral if it does.
I think,
awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But
that's not my goal, and I don't put a lot of effort into my stuff. And I feel like that's kind of like the common YouTuber is like, we're just chill and we like to upload stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that some of us tried, there were moments where we put a little more effort than not, and then some we just didn't put any at all. Like, I look at my videos now, like more recently, yeah, I did a couple package opening ones, but I was just kind of like, well, it's a package opening if something pertains to me. Everyone's doing stuff like Nerd Block and I don't even remember what the other one is, like Horror Block and something.
I don't even know. Like
they do this package openings, and I was like, well, I'm an artist at heart, and I got a subscription as a present for art snacks, and like, okay, if people like art stuff and I've got these art supplies, maybe it'll put me on a track where I'm feeling more motivated to, when I'm doing art, I'll record it and I'll share it, or like, but for the most part, they're either for me or for things that my friends can, or maybe sometimes my family can view, depending on whatever it is.
Yeah.
I feel like that for me as a person, like I don't really put on a lot of airs, so I don't feel like I'm just a character on camera too. I'm pretty.
That's
open.
Kind of a good point. Like I felt like the character a lot.
Yeah.
But
I just,
that's kind of my fault for being like super boisterous. Well, people just think of me as a character, like a lot of them really do. I like that's an interesting point, because I'd never thought about it that way.
Well, this is the way I've always viewed things for me on the internet. I type the way I talk and think, whereas a lot of people have a hard time reading like into like people's inflections and stuff, but I think if you know a
Uh-huh.
person, you can read into the way they are.
That's something I get recognized a lot by a
And
lot. Is
and that's
if
the
I
thing.
write something, somebody can identify that was me that said it. Like a lot of the people that know me, they're like, okay. Like if I try to
Like, if I
use
try
a
to
new
be
screen name,
sarcastic to someone that doesn't know me very well, like via text, they wouldn't understand. But if I were sarcastic someone in text, that like if I were doing it to you, you'd be like, you get it. Or sometimes you didn't get it. Like earlier in our group, and I posted something, and you're like, wait, what? And I had to like kind of explain it because I worded it a certain way. You're asking if there are any dicks hanging out, or anyone was awake, I think. And I said that he's probably asleep. You're like, who is he? And I was insinuating someone else.
I knew what you meant, but like I wasn't calling Justin a dick. So
I was like, I
that's
don't have one, so therefore I'm just gonna substitute for the one that I have at hand.
I just put the who is he because I wasn't intending to call Justin a dick, and if I went along with it, then it was like, okay, we all think Justin's a dick.
I don't think he's
not. I was just trying to avoid inferring that he's a dick. Like that's why I responded that way. I'm just trying not to call my friend a dick.
I don't discriminate. I call my friends asses.
like earlier he was,
I mean, I might not have one, but I'm pretty sure I can be one.
Anybody can be a dick.
Exactly.
I mean, just call somebody who's not Charles constantly and be a dick.
Right?
Like I could start calling my brother Charles, and that's me being a dick.
DJ
Charles. Yeah, I call DJ not Frank Charles all the time. But I call him DJ not Frank, and that's kind of like that's an enhanced version of calling him Charles.
I think like my go-to, like just to annoy my cousins when they're just trying to tell me to do things, it's like, sure, Bob. It's just whatever,
Yeah.
maybe Bob.
Bob's
like, what do you say? I just feel like it was just condescending enough because it's such a vague name. It could be anyone, but especially just like kind of like of the kind of guy that you wouldn't really want to take seriously ever. So I would always be like, yeah, sure, Bob.
See, now I'm thinking about like friends I had named Bob.
I know we're kind of like off topic of like what we originally started off with, but at the same time, it's kind of like I feel like it's kind of a discussion worth fleshing out.
What if
just with the friendships and stuff? I just kind of feel bad. Like there are a lot of really cool people we knew, and then I think about like where they are in life now and what happened to them.
Yeah.
A lot. Because once you lose one or another, you start thinking about the rest and what they're doing. Or at least in my case, I do. And I do care about them greatly, I think. I'm pretty fantastically loyal, if I can say so myself, like to a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
And like I value each and every one of those friendships. So I don't want anyone to ever think like my friendship with them was ever superficial. And that's why I feel kind of sad when I see like the communities break up. Because it's like all of a sudden like everyone is hesitant to reach out to each other. Like they're afraid to make the first move.
It's this culture of just making fun of everyone.
You think so?
You never know what's genuine. Like, so if you haven't heard from somebody for a long time, it's like, what's your angle when you try to talk to you again? But maybe we worry that the community has faded away so much because that's why we were attracted to YouTube in the first place, is that interpersonal aspect,
right?
That it had. But we also have to kind of realize that a lot of people came to YouTube just with completely different intentions, completely different experience with it, and community is not something they've ever experienced with YouTube or even sought out. A lot of them probably just don't even care.
Right.
But that's something that we know and we were attracted to with YouTube back in the day, because it fostered it a lot better. But a lot of us are just kind of introverted people, where this is a very good way to have like a good
Like a social
conversation, but
platform.
be able to just like, there's still just a button you can push, and you can shut off your computer and you're done.
I mean, that's a big appeal too. It's just being able to be like, I can interface with people for so long, and once I'm done, it's just like closing my door in my house. I kind of shut that out.
Yeah. Once you're done, and you're in your own space. Like, it's instantly back into my space. Like, I exit out of this window, I'm instantly back into my space.
Right? For
Alone.
virtual space has been turned off, and now I'm back in my box.
Yeah.
Or in my world.
I'm back in my comfort zone. I don't have to interact with people anymore. And that's probably what makes me more comfortable with communicating with people I would never have talked to in other countries that I have no idea how they found my link, but I'm talking to them.
Well, that's the thing too for me. Like, there's that, and then for me, we've talked about, I like to push the boundaries of like where my comfort zones are now, and it's helped me cope with like introversion and anxieties and social situations. It makes me more optimistic once I've like, I can see straight on. So now, instead of me being like, oh well, these are two alternate realities, I've got the real world here, and I've also got here, we've got Google Hangouts. I don't see it as a separation necessarily now at this point, having put so much time into it, because you're a real person on the other end, just like you would be a real person on the other end of a telephone call. And you know, like, I definitely consider you one of my good friends, and I'm not just talking to just like a random person that I probably never speak to again in my life.
Yeah.
And that goes for a lot of other friends that we have in common. You know, like, I don't see them as like kind of like something I just shut off and I forget about. Now, at this point, I've invested the time. Everything shut off at the end of the conversation or the day. You guys are still part of like my social world and my interaction, even if I'm doing other things throughout the day. So it's just like, yeah, it does come up a topic of conversation, like something happened with so-and-so that is here locally, and I'd be like, yeah, well, I had this conversation with so-and-so, and yeah, you're like still part of the active working mind.
Yeah, and you get like those notes in your head. They're like, I want to tell them about this. Like,
yeah.
And
well, like my buddy here that's been staying here, and I'm like, dude, you should really like join a hangout one of these nights, because you're gonna have a hell of a good time. Like, I tell him, because like, I swear, once you come in, you're gonna have so much fun. And he does video chats on a different site before.
Is it brother?
What's that?
Is it brother?
No, it's not. Yeah.
My brother. Is it my brother?
He's your brethren, not my brethren.
My brethren, yeah, my brethren.
Your brethren, yeah. He's
Southern Mormon.
Well, for his sake of his anonymity, I'll just call him Frost, because that's what he usually goes by online anyway. So
don't want to name dropping.
I don't want to name drop if he doesn't want to name drop, but Frost is the kind of dude that would get along greatly, and he still hasn't quite done that. And I was like, I'm open and willing to open my community doors to anyone who's willing. I have nothing to hide.
It'd be fun to talk to him. I'd be interested to talk to him, but I'd call him Gazazzle.
Gazazzle. He's pretty cool dude. Like, you know, there are a bunch of spazzes in my house, but you know, we're pretty good friends overall. And I was like, Dylan's one of my really good friends. You got a lot of cool things to say. He's got some pretty interesting things to say. He's a different person. You know, he's from back east and been here in California for like the last 6 or 7 years, and just chill dude.
It'd be interesting. Like, I would enjoy that. Like, that's the thing that needs to have more. That's kind of the thing. I mean, the idea that I can talk to him, like eventually, or the idea that we're talking, that's something a lot of people don't understand about computers.
Right.
Like, that's an aspect
I think
like
definitely
for us,
like
it's really normal, but for everybody else, they're just like, "What? You do what?"
I feel like
I hang out with my
I've
computer.
had that stigma too for many years in my life. Like, I think you understand that too, being a part of just chats and communities and stuff. Because the more you've immersed like time in here, they think that there's something wrong with you. You're avoiding the rest of the world, and it's like, in some way, yeah, it's safe and all of that.
Kinda,
Those are
yeah.
valid points, but at the same time, it's just like I don't think that it's necessarily avoidance, but I think it's just more of like more of an acceptance of something that's done differently than the
Yeah,
norm.
it's a new aspect of society that most people don't know well. Like
Right.
everybody has seen a hangout, but they don't realize that they've seen a hangout like this
Yeah.
because
I've been pretty
like
shameless
they
about
watched
like,
on the news and saw Obama talk like answering questions to people in a hangout,
right.
like this kind of hangout, exactly this kind, like politicians answering questions, celebrities answering questions. Like they've seen it, but they don't know how they can use it, and they don't understand how some people use it pretty heavily. Like we use it pretty heavily.
Well, it's just like people rely on social media. Like you got Twitter, you've got people who promote on YouTube or whatever, Tumblr or whatever other thing out there that they use to promote crap, Reddit, whatnot. Yeah,
Uh,
they throw the links out there and call it good, but it's just like you can't really promote anything without the interaction now for things. And this is like, you remember like the last 10 years, like mainstream media has just kind of jumped on the bandwagon of something that already existed for
yeah,
us. Because like I can guarantee that you and I have been on the internet longer than 10 years in
definitely.
our life, and we know the ropes of like the rules and regulations of internet etiquette, let alone the way things really work in social interactions. Whereas like I always see like media amp things up to like a certain degree where it's just like I've seen that. It's like, and then you see the generation of people who are surging into the internet and just getting into these memes, and they regurgitate, where instead of like really forming their own opinions or getting well read and researched into something, so they just take whatever they see and then they eat it up and then spit it back out the same way it came.
Yeah,
And I keep seeing like that kind of missing link where we're kind of at that plateau where everything kind of just kicked off. I mean,
really, yeah, for
I
real.
mean, the beginning of my internet career like started way back in elementary school, which is probably for a lot of people, they'll look at you and like, that's
That's
unheard of. That's
that's
crazy.
about that. Well, like a lot of elementary kids have used the internet on freaking. They're playing on tablets and using the internet.
My niece is getting addicted to YouTube now because YouTube just put out YouTube for Kids as an app. So she just watches like all these like musical videos, or she watches like
That would have been
toy
so
reviews, product
bizarre.
reviews about toys, which mostly they're music videos about like created by just random users for like Disney characters and stuff. So she watches these cartoons and she listens to music videos and all this stuff. And I'm looking at her, she is just 5 years old. She won't be 6 until October. And she knows how to use YouTube and find things that she likes to watch.
The
And
things the thing that's gonna really blow those kids away when they're adults is when they talk to like us, and it's like,
mhm.
well, no, that didn't exist. Like what?
Well,
Like my first experiences with the internet were in like 1995, and we would dial up. Like yeah, I was like 9, and the internet barely existed. Like it's pretty much like when it first started going public a little bit wider. Email
yeah.
started to be a thing. Like
Mhm.
they would blow kids away just to tell them that like yeah, the internet did not really exist for the public when like for the first while of
Not
my
many
life.
people wanted to pay for like AOL and stuff in the beginning or whatever internet they
Yeah,
had, high speed.
we
Hmm.
had internet that was like through I believe it was through the college my dad taught at,
Well, do you
and it
remember
was
how many like free ISPs there were out there? Like you could hook up to like
yeah,
Earthlink and like NetZero or Juno, or you
NetZero
do.
was my go-to. Juno was what my dad used for email in the beginning.
Juno was my go-to. I still have my original Juno account to this day.
I didn't have an account until I was probably like 1996.
My
I got
first,
an account with Hotmail.
yeah, I stayed away from Hotmail for a long time until I was like just kind of about to go into my teens. But
My
I kept my
primary
Juno
email is
account.
Hotmail.
Really?
I've had the Hotmail address that I have now for a good 15 years at least.
I think that
Probably close to 20
my
years.
my Juno account is probably getting toward, let's see, I'm 27 now, so I probably made it. It's probably at least like 16 years old by now.
My email,
If
yeah,
not
our
more,
email
probably a
accounts
little
are,
more.
our email accounts are old enough to have driver's licenses.
That's crazy.
If I had a 16-year-old in here, I'd be like, my email address is older than you.
Well, it's funny.
I'm gonna start telling that to my nieces and nephews. I
You
got
should.
emails.
I
I
got
still have emails that are older than
I
you.
have archived messages that are older than you.
I guarantee I have emails that are older than my nieces and nephews.
Right?
Now I gotta load up my email. I'm gonna
My
see
other
what my
niece,
oldest email is.
she's like what? She's like 15, 16, and she is on Twitch, and she does art too. She can use that, and she's got a following. She can draw like Minecraft photos, and people just donate money to her feed. Like
Are
I
you kidding
follow
me?
and everything. Yeah, she made like $100, $200 in one sitting. I was like, what the heck? Like, where was I? Like, I couldn't have done that when I was that age. Not so easily. Even now, I still have to like push and struggle just to get someone to buy my art or do a commission for me. But I was like really impressed.
I don't
Definitely
even know
no commission, but it's just kind of funny. Like they're just miles ahead, but at the same time, I see like a lot of other young people that just kind of like don't understand where it came from. Luckily for her and her brother, they had a lot of experience like being exposed to computers and I think the internet by my brother Rich and their mom, and then also their stepdad, probably more than not because they had their stepdad in their lives more. But I just think that's kind of impressive. Like you're making like a couple $100 in a day just making doodles.
I wish I could do that.
And I'm like, shit.
That's so weird. But they grew up with it being like they're, and it sucks to admit it, but they're going to be way more natural at all this electronic stuff than
Well, and you see like
we
the
are.
older generations looking at us like our parents, like, you need to get up.
Yeah.
Why are you spending so much time on the computer? Why are you up so late? Well, naturally for me, I've just always been an insomniac and I can't help myself. So
Word, and then computers, like then I was allowed to just always have a computer. So
Right.
it's just like, okay, this is gonna feed information into my head.
and I'm an information
awake
hound.
anyway.
So like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
awake. Let me do something on my time. I have tons upon tons upon tons of information at my fingertips. It doesn't matter what it is, I can absorb it pretty instantly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't replace it for the Library for the World because I love libraries. But I mean, like, if I can,
Smell of books.
yeah, I love the smell of books. But like, I sit here and I'm like, I'm awake. It's midnight past right now. It's like almost 6 o'clock in the morning, but that's beside the point. But I can do almost anything, whereas like the rest of the world is kind of shut down, and I don't want to go out and party every night. I did that in my young 20s and like my late teens, and I was like, I already did the parties and stuff, and sometimes I don't want to party. Sometimes I don't want to be in like social situations that I don't want. If I can pick and choose the social situations I can be in, that's optimal for me.
I don't even know what I would pick. I don't really like. I don't like social stuff. So
Well, I mean,
don't even know what I would pick.
as someone who used to go clubbing like maybe 2-3 times a week, when I was at the peak of like being a part of like goth scenes and just you know, into EDM music and all this other industrial stuff. Like going out about 2 or 3 times a week at the most, I think, was like I put myself in these social situations which they're pretty good for the most part. There's a lot of people who are always constantly stirring up drama, and you're going to find drama in every community. But it's just like when the difference between going out and doing that and then being at home and be able to kind of like hit a button and just kind of choose like how many certain kind of people that I want to talk to at a time and interact with and like share a part of me where I go out to the club and it's always going to be a parade of who's going to outdo who this week, or who's doing this to who this week, who looks better than who this week.
And see, to me, that's all really bizarre.
Yeah, it's like it really does become a parade of crazy in some scenes, and like it's fun because I make friends with people that I have like a lot of common interests with again, but at the same time you just get overrun by the regurgitation of the same stuff every time, because the main goal of is look at me, look at me, look at me, where I have already found a group where our common goal is more community versus just let me try to outdo the last person.
See, I'm not, the environment I was in was kind of like the kind of opposite. It was the pub, and it was like stereotypical super manly stuff. I'm going to drink bourbon or scotch, sit on this leather couch in this pub, and watch a movie and talk to other people, go out on the deck and have a cigar.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of like who looks like what and who's doing what. It was just kind of like we would just show up. Like I used to go like almost pretty much every night. I'd go to the bar and just whiskey, beers, shoot some pool.
Oh my
stuff
God,
like
it's
that.
Matt.
How's it going?
Oh my God.
What's up?
What's up, buddy?
We're just rolling along here.
What's happening?
Nothing.
What time is it there for you?
It is almost 8.
Almost 8. It's almost 6 here.
I'm almost at 7. We're just we've got the country covered almost.
Yeah, we're just talking about like YouTube communities and stuff and how it's different now.
Yeah. I'm gonna grab another drink real quick. I'll be right back.
Like no one hangs out like they used to anymore. Don't you think that's kind of weird?
Yeah, that is. Damn it.
So like I was just kind of poking at the whole thing. Like we used to always like all hang out and like have like a community of just random different people that interacted with each other. And like on YouTube we had like video responses.
Yeah.
And like we don't even do that anymore. It's like whoever can try to be like more of a YouTube celebrity now versus before. It's just like people just trying to have a good time and put out their stuff. So you can't even tell the difference between what's a community and who's just kind of like a gimmick. Whoop, you lost your mic. There you go. So we're just kind of like going over that and like what's kind of happened and like how it's changed. Like some people just stop YouTubing because like they go and do different stuff now. Oh, we lost him. But basically, since we've lost Alan for the moment, and I'm the only one here, it's basically you losing a sense of community because you've kind of like removed some of our like tools, not in its entirety, not that it's impossible, but I thought that video responses were kind of important and integral for interaction. And yeah, some people just kind of like moved on. They've got families now. They've got jobs and careers where they had probably basis. And Dallin was right too, pointing out before the fact that I think there's a lot of people that maybe didn't join for the same reasons that we had. I think Dallin and I have a lot of like common interests when it comes to like camaraderie and social interactions online versus just dealing with people in real life and like the separation between, like I kind of touched on earlier. So it's been kind of an interesting experience to kind of reflect on. I know we've kind of rambled from like topic to topic, but I think it's kind of important to kind of remember where you come from and what kind of inspired us to get to where we are today. Like I said, I began with UT Now and Give Me a Break Man and Bohem, and I used to watch Renetto, and who else did I used to watch? I mean, I remember when Brookers was like first all over YouTube, and Caitlin Hill, and who else? There was a ton of people, and I don't know, it just made everything fun. I looked forward to that stuff because I wanted to be a part of that. And then when it became like a popularity party, like I was not about that. I never really wanted to be in front of the camera, but at the same time, I always enjoyed being behind it. And then I realized I started using it as a medium to kind of like speak my mind and speak for myself and for other people and just have a good time. It became multiple tool use. Here's Dylan. He's back. What's
he
up,
took off?
dude? We lost him. I think he had a bad connection. It looked like
Bad
he was on a
connection.
phone or something.
Yeah. I was just thinking, what are you talking about? You're talking about AOL Messenger.
Yeah.
That was still kind of like a widely used thing when the YouTube community was at its
Yeah,
height.
it was to a degree. Yeah, I was just when I no, was I still using AOL around that time? No, when
I was using MSN Messenger primarily, but I still had
I
had
think I
AOL that
didn't
I'd log into.
I didn't really use AOL so much. I kept
Probably still is.
I kept my AIM account. I still have my AIM account now. I just don't log into it as often because no one else seems to log in. But I was just kind of like already adjusting to having like DSL and cable internet connections.
Yeah.
So it was like I was by that time I was already weaned off of dial-up connections, and so I remember there was a point where you could still use AOL without paying for it. You just download it and use it.
Yeah. Well, they'd have those trials, like you'd get minutes on it, where you could just go to, like, before there was Best Buy, really, there was like CompUSA, and
Yeah.
you could go there and they had like the stack of AOL discs. So
and you just take them.
You just take them, and then
I remember we'd go to like the grocery store and there'd be like a display and you could take like almost as many AOL discs as you wanted.
I would load up on those. I had Net Zero.
Yeah, I had Net Zero for a little bit too.
I'm signing into AIM right now. I went to their website, and for some reason my login is remembered, even though I know I haven't. I don't think I've ever logged into it on this computer.
That's interesting. Unless do you have one of your old hard drives in there or anything?
Yeah, I've got 4 hard drives.
I don't know.
But
I don't know.
this is amazing.
I usually log in using Trillian, so I can manage all my different stuff. But there's just so many accounts on there because I had like multiple Yahoo accounts under my main one. And so there are like people on there that I probably will never ever talk to again.
That's how mine.
And it's not that I wouldn't. It's just chances are if I messaged them now, they would never remember who I was.
Yeah. I only have one friend online out of like hundreds.
Yeah.
And it says that they're a bot, and I know they're not a bot. But I know the business that person is in. So it's like it's a pretty
Yeah.
filthy business. It's she owns a pornography company.
Okay.
And like she didn't when I started talking to her, and then
Well,
like
things change over
a couple
time too,
years
you
into
know?
the friendship, she started that business. So it's like it's very odd. Just the diversity of people that you can know now.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Well, I mean, look at the diversity of
amazing.
people that we knew before too. I mean, just like collectively. I was just kind of like rambling on while you were gone since Matt kind of fell out of the chat, and I was kind of like, you know, everyone, you're right that everyone probably did join for different reasons, other than the fact that like you and I looked for like the sense of community interaction, and you see how people have like grown apart. Well, and then they stop and they move on, and I see people like Matt, and he's got like a family and kids and stuff, so he's like all about that now. Some people just don't have time when they have kids now.
Yeah, and I see
It,
him interact on Facebook a little bit. Like like it's like likes of statuses. Like every once in a while, I'll post something and he'll like it.
yeah,
And
it's kind of
like, oh yeah,
sparse. Like real life is real right now, and I understand when you have to put other stuff to the back burner. And then there's some people that just kind of quit because like they just had like something put a sour taste in their mouth, and I kind
yeah.
of feel like that's kind of like unfortunate. I feel like the
I,
spirit of things has changed.
it has, and when you look at it, really, like we are people that never like we haven't been married and had kids.
Yeah, I'm
How
just raising
different
other
would it
people's
be for
kids.
us? Yeah, like how different would it be for us though? Like if like
I feel like
I don't think
my
my
draw.
social interaction on here would be as frequent if I had a wife. I know it would. It depends on the kind of wife I had too.
Right. Well, I think of
It-
this like this. I feel like the way I interact online and the things that I do online and offline coincide so much that I can't really imagine like me not doing something that would allow me to tie it in into my bigger
yeah,
picture in the
that
end.
makes a lot of sense. Like as an online personality, like our online personalities have grown from being like representative of just like things about us,
Right.
where like
Well, I mean, look at me.
the
I'm a person.
real person is represented far more than just little aspects. Like
Well, I mean, I'm more than just my screen name, but my screen name is actually just it is a part of me, but it's not just me. I've
yeah,
brought it to life, but no matter where I'm at, it's always going to be the same. I wouldn't be any different anywhere else.
yeah, it's yeah,
I mean, I could
very
be,
interesting.
depending if I wanted to portray something else, but I honestly think that I am closest to like the truest version of
It's
myself with most people.
it's growing to a level of personal comfort within, like just being comfortable with yourself,
Well,
being
I think I've
confident in
grown
who you
more
are.
confident in being
Yeah.
myself just by the routine.
Well,
And
in a
whereas,
lot of
like,
ways, putting yourself out there online, you get subjected to a lot more criticism, and it like
oh, yeah,
the easiest way to deal with that, I think, is just to be the honest, true you, because then it's just like, well, yeah, so what? It's not you. You represented yourself to be this, and it like then they attack something, and there's nothing, there's no substance behind it to stay up as like a wall
right.
where it's just like you can't knock that down because that's real. And the the need for anonymity kind of makes things harder because you don't get to be the real you.
Yeah. I feel like I've kind of like blended with my username to a point where it's just like I'm kind of like one and the same at this point. I don't really make a separation. A lot of people make a separation with their who they are by creating a name.
I think I have at different points done that.
I mean, it's
But-
kind of. I have to say, it's kind of hard for you to evade being you when you're Dallin Cheaps, Utah.
Well, it's I haven't I haven't had a Jeep for years,
I'm just saying, like,
but I won't that's definitely
you could
like a
still
big
be a
part of who I really
caricature
am.
representative of yourself based on a few of those things, but I mean,
That's true.
alternatively to like compared to me, my name is just based off of like two words that came from an inside joke over, I don't know, 15 years ago. No, wait, getting close to, probably, yeah, almost 15 years ago, based on and hanging out in the chat. And it's just like I adopted it as a new name because it was funny, and then it became a nickname, and then it was just an extension of identifying me.
Yeah,
It kind of outgrew itself.
mine I kind of had to be mine like from the beginning because it's a very literal. Mine's a very literal.
I know.
Like
Well, I mean, like now people will either call me Mia or they'll go Crimson News, and I'm like, well, you can just, if you don't want to use my name, you can call me Crimmy, and that's fine.
I never have I just like that never.
But
Never
like
thought about doing that.
on other platforms, in like other virtual lands on the internet, that's what people will refer to me as, and I don't really. I'm like, I'm fine with that, and it does still lend to some anonymity, but I could tell you that my personality is probably the same as it would be anywhere else.
Yeah. Like elsewhere, a lot of people know me as Jeep, but
Jeep.
there is a lot of weirdness attached to that because like there's a huge rumor mill that has been cranking out like weird rumors about me, and so I've kind of detached and gotten away from.
You mean
that
from like
environment.
back then, or just recently, or just
Recent-
overall?
semi recently, and then back in the day because I was an admin on LDS chat. I'm not anymore. And it used to have tons of users, and like because of the position of authority I had, people have made up like really weird rumors and like pretended that they've met me, and then they like make accusations. It's like, yeah, no, you haven't met me because I very rarely will meet people.
Yeah,
Don't like it because I'm socially awkward.
you don't
Anyways.
like dealing with new people and out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and the way that I like people have got me to come meet them is like being in trouble. Like
Right.
I need help with this, and I'm stuck, and then I'll show up with with tools and get them going again, or pull them out of whatever, or walk them like go for a walk. This one chick she like overdosed or something. I don't know. Because like she's like, I need help, and I go up and I'm talking to her. We go for a walk, and then we're walking, and she just passes out and falls on the grass.
That's kind of freaky.
And I ended up having to pick her up and carry her to a hospital.
That would definitely freak me out.
And I met her through there, and it was just, and then people used that to spawn like all these rumors. And then this other chick that I definitely haven't met, like, created all these rumors saying I have children with her and stuff. And it's like,
Oh, wow.
I've never even met you.
Well, I mean, I wonder if you imagine that's kind of how like a lot of these bigger YouTubers kind of feel. Like the more notoriety you get, the more people are kind of willing to just kind of sling your name wherever, and they forget that you're an actual human being.
Yeah,
And then that's why I think the sense of community is important, because like you remove that kind of facade of, we put you on this weird like pedestal of like you're not a human being and I can toy with you and your life however I feel like.
Yeah, that I mean that addresses the big issue of the internet today is like the cyberbullying.
It's just pretty,
People
I don't
hiding
know,
behind that anonymity.
people really take it and turn it into something
And then you like
terribly
lifesavers
disparaging and just like life scarring. And that's the thing, is most people kind of like, oh, it's just the internet. Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that take the internet very seriously,
yeah, and then
especially in
you
the
get
coming ages, and it affects everything, because you know what? Now everyone is connected to everything on the internet. People do background searches on everything that you have.
yeah,
So now it's
and
the worry of, what have I exposed, because it'll tie into my real life. And that's the inevitable. None of us are going to be able to avoid the fact that our virtual lives and our real lives will coincide.
yeah, they're gonna collide and intertwine.
And all those people who are looking at us funny before, that are just jumping on this bandwagons now, and yeah, we're still kind of seen as maybe being weird. And I was like, I look at them and I say, well, I've kind of been ahead of the curve on that for now a while now. Welcome to the fold.
Yeah, it's it's very interesting kind of life, and it's kind of why you had like in this kind of a position, it's important to resolve and bring to like a resolution who you are really comfortable as and who you are. And get
Right.
to know yourself to where you're comfortable, because then those kind of weird attacks that are volleyed at you can't be used really to hurt, because you're comfortable with yourself.
Well,
And like
I
that's
wonder
being
how
ahead
many
of the curve
people
with that.
quit because of that.
Probably a ton. Like they did something. They did
Oh,
something
struck a lot
weird
of
with somebody on cam or
raw
something.
nerves. I think especially then too, is like most people weren't prepared for that. For like first and second wave YouTubers, just there's a lot of stuff being slung around. I don't think anyone was prepared for it. You know,
I remember
be it so publicly.
there was a Encyclopedia Dramatica page that was just hating on me, but it didn't bother me that much
Right.
because I knew it was a bunch of lies, and they made a claim that they couldn't back up. They claimed they had like all these naked pictures of me, and it's like, well, I know that's not true because I didn't do that.
Right.
And like, so there was a hate page on me, but when they saw how ineffective it was at bothering me, it got taken down. Because the whole reason they did it is because they were hating on my YouTube chat, and then
Right.
I
Well,
was a
I know
fairly
they did it
prominent
for
person
a
in there.
series of people that were from the chat, right?
Yeah,
There's
just like if you were a prominent character in there, pretty much like if you were a
Mhm.
fairly prominent character, you probably had a page. I know Mike had one. He might still. I don't know. I haven't
I
haven't
think
visited that site in forever.
technically, I think Encyclopedia Dramatica was closed, but there's like cache versions or something. There,
I think it's still going, honestly.
I don't know. I looked at it before. I remember like they had Mike on there. I know there was an entry for Carmine, you,
Carmine, what an idiot.
and I don't remember who else off the top of my head. I remember they had one for like David Hawk that was on Stickam, that dude that was always
I
like
remember that dude.
predatory into like the younger scene girls. Like every week there was like a rumor going around all of Stickam, like, did you hear that he had sex with this girl, or that did this, or some crazy stupid
Went
thing, or
down with a midget.
doing drugs on camera or whatever. I was just like, good lord.
I can't remember Mike.
That was a hell of a, I mean, like Stickam was a community in and of itself too. Like not even just related to YouTube, but of course the video video access on between YouTube and Stickam like coincided a lot, but the Stickam communities were just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like there was like a lot of rival gangs because there were so many scene kids on there vying for attention.
Yeah.
It was just like like resurgence of I want my MTV. Only let's just be like underage sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
It was definitely very interesting. Like I'm
That's
looking at
strange.
Encyclopedia Dramatica now. It's still around. There's nothing still existing about YouTube chat. So I mean, there's that.
I think it's all been wiped. I don't think that many
Yeah.
things had been saved.
It's good because they had an article on me, and I don't want that popping up when an employer
Good.
is looking. Like they can already pop up like mugshots of me. So
Right. Well, I was going to say, we always check the Wayback Machine, but chances are it probably wouldn't even be on there.
yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. Just thinking of that, just the whole back in that day, life was really different, and kind of like 2008. I remember having a phone I could use Stickam on,
Oh, yeah.
and so I would be driving around, and I was talking like I was watching Miles's chat on my phone
Oh, that's right.
while I was just like driving around. Because I used to talk to him a fair amount, but he'd be an interesting one to talk to about this.
I'm surprised that more people didn't try to hop in, but I mean, given the hour that we decided to like open this subject up, which I think we could always do again, I think would be really awesome. Just like a second follow up with other people who have something to say would be pretty cool.
I just tagged Miles and we'll see what happens.
Let's see.
Because it should be about quitting time over there, right?
I
Stu.
know. Stu. Here are the cakes.
Stewardy and Banks. Let's get some UK people.
There you go.
Stewart. I better delete the horrifically wrong spelling of Stewart.
Right. We're like, what
Stuart Ian Banks. Oh
the heck?
man, I'm just like blowing up his full name.
Right.
All these people are gonna find. If you find Stu, make fun of him for his bald head. If you know Stewart, slap his bald head.
Slap his bald head, he says.
Like the whole, you know how like swatting is a whole, like it's a thing. Like
Swatting? Like just swatting a fly, you mean?
no. Like live streamers, like live gamers will be playing, and then people will track down their address and then call in and say there's like a terrorist thing going on at
So
that
they're
house.
calling like a bomb threat over at their house.
And then like a SWAT team will show up and they'll watch it on the live stream as a SWAT team like raids these people's houses. Like it's happened.
God.
It's happened like several times. I don't know how many. Somebody tried it on Swifty, and the cops showed up, and he ended up getting like some kind of arrested or something. It got cleared, but that's a thing now.
What?
How ridiculous is that? I don't live anywhere near a SWAT team, so I don't have to worry.
It's probably for the
But-
best.
I don't really live stream, but that's a thing. Like, I've seen video of that happening, and it's just like, these effing kids. So what he needs. This is what happens when you get a society that won't spank their children. Like sometimes you just gotta whap that child and be like, no,
Not gonna
Like-
happen.
Then like pain is needed in life sometimes to make you.
Or a good
Like-
shock to the system, and I don't mean like
Yeah.
electrocute your kids. That's not what I'm condoning here. I mean just like
Dump
you
a
just gotta
bucket
get
of ice water on
whatever it is, just to kind of like get a good like,
them.
oh yeah, I need to be paying attention because stuff is about to get crazy here in a second with this grown up.
Yeah, if you're not allowed to hit them.
I done messed up now.
If you're in a society where you're not allowed to hit your children, just start taking them outside and dumping buckets of ice on them.
So long as
You
they
need to
don't,
learn.
so long as they
Start-
don't go hypothermic, right?
Yeah, that's how it ends up. They're
Otherwise, it ends up
child abuse.
Yeah, child abuse is bad. Okay.
And the 9-year-old child ended up dying of hypothermia when they were unable to maintain homeostasis because their guardian was dumping buckets of ice water on them and leaving them outside in January. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do it. That's a bad idea.
Don't ice bucket your children.
Ice bucket.
Spanking is probably way better than ice bucketing. You can't torch them. That's bad.
Right.
What are the best ways to discipline a child? That's a big thing about community. You got to figure out how to teach
How and
the
what's
children.
fair.
Got to teach the children. That's what's ruined our community is these children that have come up. They're just a bunch of spammers.
Who raised these children into these spamming fiends?
This kid just like spammed.
Little kids with their get rich quick
They-
schemes. I'm still working on it. I ain't rich yet, so
It's crazy to me that like a 15-year-old's making hundreds of bucks. It's if I was a girl, men can't do that. Like it just doesn't work. Like
I don't know how my niece finagled like just making a couple $100 a night because like if that was something I could do just for a drawing, then I need to sign up on that dotted line, whatever she's doing.
it'd be amazing.
Because if that were the case, if I could just sit down and get paid to draw, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for real. I'll never be that good at drawing.
No, you got some good carpentry, good woodwork though.
Yeah, I'll get that. I'll work on that. It's something to work on, taking mind off of stuff.
Yeah,
Anyways, we've been going for a long time.
I think it's time to kind of wrap this up since we're going to tapering off the topic again, and it's about
Gotta wrap it up.
Almost
We've
6.
gone through enough tangents.
it's almost 6:30 in the morning where I am, and I imagine it's almost 7:30 where you're at, and
It has to be in the good old mountain
right,
time zone. The Lord's
So-
time.
the Lord's time zone.
But
I mean, we should definitely kind of touch back on this. We need to get some
Yeah.
more opinions.
get a few more friends in here.
I think
But
so, and
this
it'll
is kind of an
be.
example of the community of like, well, just having this conversation
I
has
think
been
we
an
need.
example of that kind of community.
Well,
Let's get
this
Sam
in
in,
of it,
let's-
this in of itself is meant to be kind of a social experiment anyway, just a topic
Uh-huh.
of discussion and seeing if anyone would pop in. I think if
Yeah.
we do this again another night,
not
but-
at like the wee hours of the morning.
probably not something that's a little more regular, but definitely like I'm down for like daytime during the weekends if I'm not doing anything, but or during the week, and definitely see who we can get in here and having a conversation about this sort of thing. But I think maybe it'll kind of like dredge up some of the old crew or interest someone who's new who wants to find a sense of community.
Yeah.
And I've always said like there's nothing wrong with old blood, but it's always good to bring in new blood so you don't end up with bad blood.
Yeah, and if you've watched through this whole thing, feel free to contact me and like if
Definitely.
you wanna become friends and be a part of the community that we're a part of, feel free to leave a comment or drop a like.
This is definitely not just about like spamming your videos, but I mean, just really a sense of like human interaction.
Yeah, feel.
This is
we'll
open
let
open
you- I'll let you
invitation for
into a
friendship.
hangout. Yeah, I'll let you into a hangout. We can have a conversation. Just drop a comment. I usually don't do hangouts on this thing, but drop a comment. I'll see it, and I'll invite you to hangouts. I'll add you to my circles.
We have private hangouts, so you're not always forced to go live, as
Yeah,
we're
it's
not
not
always the
overwhelming.
kind of
It's not
people.
recorded. This is the first time I've actually recorded any kind of a hangout.
Right? And if you've never been in a hangout before, you're in for some fun, I think.
You can turn off your camera and just talk, or if you really want to, you can just type and have your camera and your mic off, and then
Yep.
ease into it. But it is enjoyable, and it's a good way. It's a good way to get to know people and really hash things out and like really express ideas a lot of the time, because it's not like a hateful environment. Anyways,
Yeah.
this has been a conversation on the YouTube community, and have gone off on many tangents.
And hopefully in the future we'll go off in some more interesting ones. Not necessarily of this particular topic, but I'm sure that there's a future in it.
yeah,
Just be sure to subscribe to Dallin for some more future
Definitely.
interesting awesomeness.
feel free to check out all my other videos because they're hilarious.
They're
And-
pretty awesome
Check out Mia's channel, Crimson
for
Ooze.
randomness and infrequent updates, but you know, whatever.
There's stuff on there.
There's stuff if you're actually curious, and if you like stuff and I like stuff, then we could be friends, maybe, you know.
If you
I
like
don't
stuff
judge.
And I like stuff. We could be friends.
We could be
If you like
friends.
stuff and I like stuff. We could be friends.
That could
If you
be
like stuff and
a
I
new
like
jingle.
stuff. We could be friends.
We could be friends.
All right,
All right.
y'all
That's-
take her easy.
Good night.
Vaya con Dios.